Hi everyone, and welcome to my latest video on making maths fun. Now, after a small hiatus, I am back with a whole bunch of new activities and a few small changes as well. So let me reintroduce myself. Hi, my name is Holly Wedd, and I am the head teacher mathematics at Aurora High School. And I am here to bring you 3 activities on making linear relationships fun in your classroom. Now, this is a great set of activities for really building those relationships and deep and meaningful understanding between the graphical and the algebraic modes of linear relationship to really assist students with understanding and fluency and really ensuring that they can recognize one without the other and that they know how to move between each form. This set of activities will really focus on building that fluency and building that understanding, which is something that I found that my students have really struggled with in the past. So let's get into it. Now, this first activity is a Desmos activity called Match My Line. Now, this is a fun little activity which is really easy for students to either do in class on Chromebooks, or it can really easily be assigned through Google Classroom as well. It's really great for getting a bit of an assessment of where the students are actually at with their skills, how much they're understanding of what you've taught so far, and could even be used as part of an investigation task if that was something that you were doing with your students for this topic. This activity, you do need to go onto teacher.desmos.com and search up Match My Line. Once you have managed to do that, it will bring you to this page here, which you can see is a 45 to 60 minute activity depending on the level of your class, and it can then be assigned to your students. You can either set classes up in Desmos, or you can have it assigned right to your Google Classroom if that's the platform that you are using. Now, on this site here, you get access to what these screens the students will see, so you can get a bit of a preview of the questions that they will be answering through this activity so that you can get a bit of a grasp on how exactly you want to run the activity and if you want students to work independently, in pairs, or even complete it as an at-home task if you think your students are of the level where that is an appropriate task for them. Now, a feature of this that I really like is this teacher guide up the top here. Now, this teacher guide gives an activity checklist of what you should do before you run the activity, gives you some space for learning targets, and then it gives you a lot of background information and questions that you can ask your students to really engage their critical and creative thinking, really have them understand what the questions are trying to achieve by being asked in the way that they're being asked in. It also gives you space to have notes for each of the screens and sample responses for how students may answer certain questions. So I really like this teacher guide, and I found it really helpful in lots of the different activities that I have done on Desmos. So back to the normal activity here, you can click into the student preview to see exactly what students are going to see on each of the screens. So of course they get their welcome screen. For each Match My Line challenge, plot a line that passes through the given points. The very first challenge question is that they just need to adjust the equation so the line passes through the points. So they may go, oh, well, what happens if I add 1? That doesn't do what I want it to do, so it means that I'm going to need to change the gradient. And if I change my gradient to 0.5 or to 1/2, all of a sudden my line is passing through the correct point. Students can then click submit and go next. Now, once all students have completed it, you as the teacher, once you've assigned this, do have access to pull everyone's responses anonymously up on the board as well. So you can see how the different students have answered questions, where students have gone wrong, and how they could improve their answers as well. I found that assigning this through Google Classroom and then having students work through it in class so that they can sort of discuss with their peers what they may be doing wrong or what they may be doing right and sort of help each other in a collaborative way really worked well for my students with this activity. Now, this second activity is called Two Truths and a Lie. Now, the original activity was actually shared to me by a colleague at a recent Teach Meet I was at. And as soon as he started talking about it, I absolutely fell in love with the idea of two truths and a lie in the classroom. So we all know the standard two truths and a lie game. You know, you say two facts about yourself that are true and one that's a lie, and the other people in the room need to try and figure out, well, which ones are the truths and which one is the lie. Now, what this activity does, so I've turned it from the activity that my colleague told me into a worksheet and into a bit of an investigation in the class. So students get the worksheet. They are to then graph their own line on the worksheet and say two truths and a lie about their line. So let's check it out. So students are provided with this worksheet here and are to place their names up the top in the orange box entitled Question Master, meaning they are the master of their question and they are the only one with the answers. In the green box, they are to draw their graph of their line and then make their three statements in the other coloured boxes around the page. Once students have completed their two truths and a lie, they are to pin their page up somewhere in the room. They are then to move on to their judging sheet. Now, this judging sheet allows students to write down who the question master is for that question and which statements they think are the truths and which ones are the lies. So my students have absolutely loved playing this game. It's a really great investigation task and they get really into trying to figure out, well, you know, which one is the lie. You know, some of them are quite easy for the students and they go, well, obviously, you know, the y-intercept is not at -4. Or obviously the slope is positive rather than negative. But some of them actually get quite tricky. And the more that I found that the kids thought about it, the trickier and the more in-depth they tried to get with their truths and their lies. So it became a really interesting task to see the students start to work together to go, well, how could I make my truths closer to my lies to make it harder for other people to figure out? So it became a really good sort of investigation task for the students in class, and they really enjoyed then the process of trying to figure out other people's truths and other people's lies. So it was a really fun activity that was played with my class, and it can be sort of scaffolded for students of a lower ability or lower level, and then it can also be extended for students of a higher level. You know, you could, instead of just doing straight linear relationships, if you were doing non-linear relationships or even graphing things like circles, then you could easily adapt this activity to work in that scenario as well. Now, my final activity is called Find a Friend. Now, this activity originated from a simple free worksheet that I found online, which I will attach to this video as well. Now, I adapted this worksheet to make it so that rather than students just sitting at the desk completing their own worksheet, I turned it into a game of Find a Friend. So the students are given half of the worksheet and they need to figure out which other student in the room has the other half and then work together collaboratively to solve the question involved. So I will usually cut this resource as you see here and will distribute the separate parts to students. Their first step is to recognise which pieces of information they have been given and which form they should be looking for in the classroom with what other students have been given. For example, with this one, students would need to recognise they have been given slope-intercept form and find the appropriate partner with instructions on how to graph their line. Students then work together to graph their line correctly. There are 3 different levels depending on the level of your students. The first level, as you can see here, has full instructions. The second level has some of the key words missing. And the third level, for students who are quite confident using all of the forms, you could just give students the grey part on the very top of each of the squares you see here. It's a great little activity to help finish off a lesson. So not only does this activity support students with recognizing the different information that could be used to graph linear relationships, but because students are working in pairs, it also encourages the use of that mathematical literacy and that correct terminology to sort of explain to each other, well, this is how I think we do solve this is how I think we go about this. And so it's a really great activity for students to be able to develop that literacy, develop that terminology, and work collaboratively with each other as well. So there you have it, guys. 3 different activities to help engage your students in learning linear relationships. As always, all resources will be linked to this video, and if you'd like to keep up to date with all of the latest videos that I'm putting out, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the ACER Teacher YouTube channel. If there's anything that you would like me to make a video on, please drop a comment down below. I'm always more than happy to take suggestions or anything that you guys would like to see. See you next time.